It's not every show that gets a presidential endorsement. Mr. Biden, tell us what you think about the Brad and John show.
These are the kind of guys you like to smack in the ass.
It could have been worse. He might have tried to bite Brad on the knee. Now it's back to Brad and John on the BJ show.
I don't know if you've noticed it. I have 2 hearing aids. I'm very deaf. I'm not understanding. Everybody's yelling. I'm doing the best I can.
We're doing the best we can. I do have 2 hearing aids.
Hey, speaking of hearing aids, we hear our listeners, and a dear and valued and beloved listener pointed out in real time that Representative Justin Sparks is not just a member of the Freedom Caucus. He is the chair of the Freedom Caucus, Brad. So thank you to a listener for pointing that out to us.
Now, John, being the SD that I am, I'm saying, why do we need caucuses? Aren't they all Republicans? Can't they just...
Now, see, this is exactly, again, what our friend Scott Fawn has pointed out. He said that, if you're in the House and there's like 111 Republicans, maybe you want to make a fun caucus of this or that group. But if you're in the Senate, especially, there's only 34 senators. Why do you need your own caucus? Like, why do you need to demarcate yourself? Brad, in my opinion, it always comes down to money. And if you want to get a little, there are people obviously making money off the Freedom Caucus Corporation and off the, off the fundraising. So why not create your own group, delineate yourself, quote unquote, brand yourself, and then find a way for some folks to make a little bit of money off of it?
I just find it. We get into these subcategories where, and once again, I have to tell you, this is like the week anniversary of the election. It's hard to believe the election was last Tuesday, a week ago today. Okay, once again, there are still people out there who are butthurt. Does Pastor Brad have to come back on the air and say a prayer and everything like that? You know what? I get that some people are upset that their candidate didn't win, and some people are like suicidal, and some people are, chartering a plane to go to the Netherlands or someplace like that. It's like, once again, let's think big picture. We are all Americans. We're all Americans. You know what I'm saying? And
I do know. And can you imagine, let's just say, no way, I don't remember a lot of straight white males in 2021 and late 2020 threatening to off themselves after Joe Biden won. I don't remember that happening. But if that had happened and Kamala Harris had been elected this time around, and white men were threatening self-harm, do you think the theme would be like, wow, what have we done to put white men in this category, or men in general in this category? Or do you think it would be, serves them right. We have Madam President. You better get used to it. I don't think there would be that level of compassion. I would point people today, Brad, to a piece from USA Today that's on my website. Some woman who looks like a Temu version of Camellia Peterson wrote a piece about a Missouri woman and her daughter and how sad they are about Kamala losing and how their world's just going to come crashing down. I found it thanks to Tony's Kansas City. But anyway, a Temu version of Camellia Peterson goes through and talks about all the terror that's going through America right now as women realize that they've once again been denied the presidency, Brad.
Okay, first off, Pastor Brad would say, go back and read your 10 commandments because thou shalt not worship false gods. And I said this yesterday and I got a little bit of pushback from some people, but politicians are false gods. A president is the false god. If you live in the city of St. Louis and you worship Tashara Jones, you're worshiping a false god because ultimately, you're in control of your life. I know companies and say, well, no, not because of the fact that I get forced to pay taxes by the government and blah, 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 blah. I get it. But when it comes down to it, when you wake up every day and you take a shower, whatever you do, your morning, your habit, that's you. No one is forcing you, and no one is helping you do that. No one isn't helping you make your morning breakfast, or if you got kids, taking care of the kids, or like what John's doing, taking care of the kids, feeding the kids, taking them to school and stuff like that. That is because you are a citizen of this country, and that is sort of one of these unwritten truths that you just got to do that kind of stuff, you know? I mean, like, for example, like John's a perfect example of this. If he's driving down the highway and he sees a horrible accident, man, he can't wait to get to his phone to dial 911 to call that accident in, right? Right.
I just want to paper my wall with good boy points like Brad Hildebrand gets from the State Highway Patrol, from local dispatchers.
I'm sorry, John, I had to throw that at you. But going back to the thing, once again, life goes on, you know, and the crazy thing about this is, heaven forbid, maybe Trump and his administration. I think that this is going to dovetail into my latest skirmish with J.C. Corcoran, which I don't understand this guy. You know, how many times...
Wait, do you have a new skirmish with him?
Happened last night.
You get out of town.
No. See, okay, once again, John, listen to what I'm going to say. And tell me, I'm just going to ask you something. I'm going to describe my opinion of J.C. Corcoran. I'm going to ask you when I get done, how many times have I said this on the air? J.C. Corcoran is probably one of the most talented guys in the radio business, one of the hardest working guys in the radio business. How many times have you heard me say that, right?
All the time. You give him that credit all the time, right?
But he blows himself up all the time because of his wacky, crazy crap he does. And I call it, I've had this term in the radio business, and through the years, I've had people say, hey, I was listening to your station, and I really liked that afternoon guy, Domino Rippy. He was really good. And all of a sudden, he's gone. What happened? 95%, what do you mean 90%? 90% of the people in the radio business that get fired don't get fired for the stuff they do on the air. It's because they are wackadoodles, are intolerable off the air. They're just weird, strange people, or they're horrible people, and they can't get along with the staff. They're bomb throwers. They're people that, you know, that like they're negative Nellies, whatever you want to call them. And there gets a point when the boss just like, okay, enough of this. There's the door. Don't let it hit you on the butt on the way out. Okay. So the latest skirmish is, I see this thing posted yesterday from Elon Musk, and it's pretty.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Did you see this map Elon Musk puts up?
Yeah, and by the way, you're totally going to turn me into a Facebook guy because I went to your Facebook page just now and I see this conversation. And dang you, Brad, for you're going to turn me into a Facebook guy. But go ahead and describe the visual. And yes, I saw it because Elon tweeted it. You're right.
Okay, Elon Musk puts this map up, and it's a screenshot from something that was on Newswatch, and it's a pretty interesting map. It shows the country, and it shows the red and blue states, and it shows, you know, who voted for Trump, the states that got the electoral votes for Trump, and the states that got the electoral vote for Harris. And the interesting thing about it is every single state that was a electoral win for Trump has some kind of voter ID requirement. And every single state, except for 2 that went for Harris, has no voter ID. So it's an interesting juxtaposition of, okay, no, hold on a minute. Now you can look at it 2 ways. You can say, oh, you know, like the theorists, the conspiracy theorists would say, oh, look at that. That shows exactly what it is. Those states that went for Harris, they're cooking the books. They're playing with the ballot boxes. They're stuffing the ballot boxes. Or you could essentially say, look, it's pretty much of a liberal conservative thing that the conservative states, for the most part, have some kind of a voter ID law, and the liberal states don't. Okay? So I'm going through my stuff last night. I'm going through my Facebook posts, and here's on my news feed, here's a thing from J.C. Corcoran where he puts this map up, and it shows, you know, it's the same map, it's red and blue, and the area that is the red is labeled as, I think it was, I can't remember. I can't find the stupid map he put up now. It was labeled as dumb efferines. Get what I'm saying? But I'm leaving out a couple.
Wow. So he can't stand Trump.
Apparently not. Here, let me see if I can find the stupid map. Essentially, what he's saying is, if you voted for Trump, you're a dumb F, if you know what I'm saying. Okay?
Yeah.
Fill in the blank there. So all I did was just post this map of the voting thing on there. So let me get to my page, which is so funny to me. And I'm going like, God, this guy just gets wound so tight. You know?
Can I read his comments?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so Brad posts the visual, which was from Elon Musk
right.
via Newsmax.
Right.
that just the headline is States Harris won versus ID requirement.
Right.
J.C. Corcoran replies to Brad Hildebrand and says, "Stuff it, loser. Most people sort of get the drift when they're not wanted somewhere." Stuff it, loser.
And read my reply.
And Brad says, so this is directly to J.C. Corcoran. "I value you as a friend and fellow broadcaster. You're always welcome at my studios and on any of my stations. Let's have lunch. My treat." Which is a very Brad Hildebrand response. So, that's very much you, Brad. That's very genuine.
And so he's going to get even more pissed off by that. You know what I'm saying? Because of the fact.
Yeah, he probably will. Now, do you think this is if you're J.C. Corcoran, do you think this is like a status thing? So do you think if Tucker Carlson asked him to go to lunch, I'm sure J.C. Corcoran would be like, okay, I'll fly from Florida to wherever I got to go. But do you think it's a thing where he considers himself above you and he's above interacting with you?
Well, first off, I don't think he would, if Tucker Carlson invited him, I don't think he'd go. Because, once again, you know why he wouldn't go?
So why is that?
Because Tucker Carlson is not a movie star or a big celebrity. You know, I mean,
not Jennifer Aniston.
Yeah, not Jennifer Aniston. And see, I've said it before. Okay, I'll say it again. When J.C. Corcoran showed up here in St. Louis, he set the radio business on its ear with him and John Hewlett and Joe Mama Mason and Don Johnson on Casey, okay? And he was funny, irreverent, and the irony of the situation was, everybody thought, oh my God, he's so ingenious. Well, all he was doing was he was ripping off Scott Shannon from the Morning Zoo in New York City. Scott Shannon is the guy who started this whole Morning Zoo thing. I mean, go back, there's a movie out, which is pretty interesting. Scott Shannon, who was a very well-respected DJ before he ended up in New York, he was down, I believe, in Tampa, stuff like that. And the story is, he gets hired in New York City, and they want to take the station, which is literally the last rated station in the market. They are like, if there's like 50 stations in the New York market, they're rated 50th. So they're in the bottom of the barrel, okay? And in one rating period, like in 6 months, that station went, and matter of fact, I think the name of the documentary is called Worst to First. They went from the worst station in the market to the number one station in New York. Now, that takes some doing. You think St. Louis is a competitive market. It ain't nothing compared to New York, where you've got all sorts of signals and you've got some serious money, serious salaries, serious promotion, and a huge population base, okay? So Scott Shannon is the guy who came up with this whole Morning Zoo concept. J.C. Corcoran just copied it. That's all there is to it. J.C. went, no, I didn't. I made it better. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, whatever. Okay, I've said it time and time again. When he first got here and he was on Casey and he did that shtick, he did that Morning Zoo shtick, he was excellent. He brought listeners in by droves. The station was not doing well. They turned it around, turned it into a powerhouse. Well, then along the way, JC morphs into Mr. Entertainment Dude, and I'm going like, okay, I'm done. You know, because you listen to the show, well, I got flown out to Los Angeles, and I interviewed, like you said, Jennifer Aniston. Didn't he get in a fight with Jennifer Aniston? Wasn't that the story that he got?
I don't know. I only said her name because you mentioned Jennifer Aniston with J.C. Corcoran all the time.
Well, one of them he had some words with, and what people don't understand, if you turn on your local TV station and you see like the local reporter who's in L.A. Talking to the stars, it's called a junket. And what they do is the studios pay for this. They call up Channel 5. Hey, who's your entertainment reporter? Hey, Joe Smith, your entertainment report, Channel 5. We got a new movie coming out, and yeah, we'd love to fly out to L.A. We'll pick you up in a limousine and drive you down here to the studios. And they have these interviews scheduled back to back to back to back to back to back to back. And they put the star down in a chair, and one by one, the local reporters come in and sit down, and they're like, oh my God, Jennifer Aniston, I've been a big fan of yours for so long. And, the clock's ticking. They get 10 minutes to ask all these questions. They walk out the door. They give them the videotape. They jump back on the plane. They come back to St. Louis. Oh, I interviewed Jennifer Aniston. You and 40,000 other local TV dudes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, and it's not like, Jennifer photographer said, "Hey, JC, I love that interview. Let's go have lunch. Why don't you come over to my place and we'll watch Jeopardy together," or something like that. It's not the way it happens, and that's what he turned into. And it's interesting because the one comment on my Facebook page, maybe see if I can find this, which is funny, which is a perfect example. Let me see if I can find this. This is so funny, and this is the beauty of having snarky friends on Facebook. You know what I mean? And you hear, and the comment is, "Where is it?" And what
I saw a woman who said she worked with JC ages ago at Channel 5.
Right. Well, but the interesting thing is I typified the headline I put on this post, I screenshotted the map and I screenshotted J.C. Corcoran's response and then my response back to J.C. Corcoran. And I titled it, "Calling Dr. Norman Vincent Peale. I have a patient for you." Now, do you know who Dr. Norman Vincent Peale is?
Yeah, I have the book behind me on my bookshelf.
Right.
The How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Which, by the way, was a very controversial book, but that's a whole nother way. But essentially, he's saying, PMA all the way, positive mental attitude. That's what it takes. And once again, if you walk into a store and if you walk into a car dealership and two guys approach you and one guy's like, "You probably don't want to buy a car, do you?" And the other guy says, "Hi, welcome, sir. You know what? I'm Joe Smith and I'm your sales guy. You know what? You may not want to buy today, but I will answer every single question you have and I'll be more than happy to show you some alternatives. But I understand you don't want to buy today. Who are you going to take? You're going to take the guy who's like being very positive, uplifting, supportive and things like that. That is life. When you walk into a room and half the room is the negative Nellies and half the other room, and they're all sort of glum and looking like, look like they just went to a funeral, and the other half of the room is yucking it up, which side of the room are you going to go to? I'm going to go
to the side with pond scum, Brad. Yeah. I'm going to go to the side of the 86 and 87 New York Mets.
Right. You're going to go
maybe the 85 Mets.
Right. You're going to go to John's making some comments about JC who got in trouble with Major League Baseball. But see, once again, JC was the bad boy. And this thing about it is, JC, you and I are in the same boat, okay? Our better days are behind us, JC doesn't even live here anymore. He's like the Dave Murray kind of guy. He still wants to make a look, I'm a St. Louis guy. He's lived in Florida for like 10 years. You remember, it's funny, one morning on the station, on this very show, I mentioned the fact that Dave Murray has lived in Palm Springs, California for 6 or 7 years. And somebody actually texted me and said, because I give my phone number out in the air, 314-280-8880. You can text me anytime you want. And somebody texted me and they go like, "Are you kidding? He doesn't even live here anymore." I go, "No, he's gone. He was on the plane before his last newscast was done. He was gone." And I'm not making fun of Dave Murray. He cashed his paycheck. He saved his money. He was on Good Morning America, made some heavy bucks when he was on doing the ABC network thing. Good riddance to him. If he wants to live in Palm Springs, fine. And the problem with that isn't it ironic that the weather guy lives in a place where the weather is very stable? You know what I mean?
It's quite. Maybe it's not ironic. Maybe it's fitting. Maybe after a lifetime of predicting weather movements, you just want to come out every day and say the high is 74 and the low is 56.
Right. And you think you'd want to move to like Oklahoma City where it's like Tornado Alley or something like that, where the storm watchers, when the storms hit, they all fly into OKC, we're going to go watch the tornadoes. But I don't get the J.C. Corcoran stuff. And once again, who am I to essentially espouse a different view than his? Because once again, all you people out there, and essentially what he's saying is the majority of the American people, I think we're up to 312 electoral votes and even
something like that, yeah.
And he's saying you're a bunch of dumb Fs, okay? I don't get that. I don't understand it. I mean, remember the classic quote from Michael Jordan when Michael Jordan first started making big with the Air Jordans, and someone said, "Well, why don't you take a political stance?" Remember the quote, John?
Yeah, he said, "F them, kid."
No, he did not. He
said Republicans buy sneakers too.
Yes, exactly. He gets it. It's at a point where why do you want to alienate, in this case, more than half the people in the United States, at least the voters, who said, we're done with this woke junk. We're done with all this crazy weird stuff. We're done with all this crazy, bizarro stuff that what's the guy, Mayorkas, who's standing in front of and who being interviewed by our testimony from Hawley, and he says, "The border is is secure. And you're going like, what world does he live in? You know, is he talking about the border between North and South Korea? Yeah, that border is really secure. But
he's talking about Cottleville and St. Peter's.
Yes.
And if you want to hear Brad debate this with J.C. Corcoran, just tune into The Wolf tonight at 4 p.m.
The Wolf?
You're going to be on The Wolf, right? Debating J.C. Corcoran.
I am? You mean K-Wolf?
Is that station? Isn't J.C. going to be on that station?
Well, he was for about 3 weeks. Then he got. Well, once again, here we go again. He's bragging about. See, I offered him to come on this station.
I'm pushing you because we're over time. I'm goading you, Brad. I'm baiting you.
Okay. I offered him to come on the air about a year ago before he actually went and K-Wolf, and he sent me back a sharp little text. I'm under contract with another station. I can't go on the air with you. He wasn't on the air. He was under contract. Okay. Then he goes on the air, and he's on the air like, I don't know, 2 weeks, and he has a fight with station management, and he's gone. I was going like, okay, what is this? I mean, this guy can't keep a job. You know, I just don't understand.
I think Pastor Brad should just say a prayer and move on. That's what I think.
J.C. Corcoran, Pastor Brad, I'm putting him on my collar. Dear Lord, let people who are self-destructive someday look in the mirror and see the real person who is a positive person covered in that skin of negativity, and have that skin come off and the positivity ooze out of their pores and become a new skin and a new positive person. Amen. How did I do?
I say stuff it, loser.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's Combest, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?